I need to begin with a truth sharp enough to cut through the noise inside your mind. The last words you speak before sleep decide what follows you into tomorrow. And if you've been whispering the wrong things in the dark, prosperity may have been knocking at your door while you were too numb to hear it. Tonight, I want you to do something simple yet symbolically powerful. Go to the comments and write, "Tonight, I choose prosperity." Not for me, for you. Because when you declare something publicly, even in a small space, your spirit stops se escondiendo, hiding behind excuses, and steps into a place of responsibility. It is the first small doorway you open toward abundance. I say this because I learned the hard way. For years, I believed my life shifted because of what I did during the day, my work, my ambition, my discipline. But it wasn't until I studied the old rabbinic traditions that I understood the real key was hidden in what I said before surrendering to sleep. The ancient rabbis taught that night is not the end, but the womb of the next day. Sleep is not an escape, it is planting. And every word uttered before closing your eyes becomes a seed buried deep inside the subconscious soil. Most people don't know this. They collapse into bed carrying the weight of unanswered questions, silent fears, unfinished frustrations. They think silence protects them. They think ignoring their own turmoil keeps chaos away. But the spiritual world does not respond to silence. It responds to intention. It responds to clarity. It responds to truth spoken from a place of awareness. And the words you release right before your soul drifts into its nocturnal journey, those words become the architect of your energy for the next sunrise. When I first heard an old rabbi say, "Your night shapes your morning more than your morning shapes your day," I felt the ground shift beneath me. He explained that in Jewish mysticism, the night is sacred, electrically alive with invisible forces. What you confess before sleeping travels with you into a dimension your waking self cannot enter. If you lie to yourself at that threshold, if you pretend everything is fine when it isn't, you carry falsehood into a realm that only responds to honesty. This is why tonight matters. This is why your words matter. And this is why I'm asking you to write that simple phrase in the comments, a symbolic gesture to awaken the sleeping part of you that has been begging for permission to grow. Because if you understood the power contained in the final sentence you speak before surrendering to darkness, you would never again waste that moment with empty phrases or tired resignation. And now, let me show you what the ancient rabbis understood about the night. Truths preserved for centuries, whispered from teacher to disciple, waiting for the right moment to reach you. There is an old belief woven into the fabric of Jewish mysticism, a belief so simple and yet so profound that when I first heard it, I felt as though someone had opened a hidden door inside my chest. The words you speak before sleep do not fade, they travel. They travel into the quiet chambers of the subconscious, where your mind grows soft, receptive, unguarded. And in that softness, every sentence becomes law. Every phrase becomes a seed. Every whisper becomes architecture for the world you will wake into. The ancient rabbis called this the gateway hour, a sacred threshold between the visible and the invisible. They taught that the soul loosens its grip on the body as we drift into dreams, and in that loosening, we return, ever so briefly, to a purer spiritual dimension. That is why the final words before sleep carry such tremendous weight. They become the instructions your soul carries with it into that dimension. They become the map. My grandfather used to tell me a story about a rabbi he once admired, a quiet man named Eliyahu, who lived in a small village near the desert. Life had never been kind to him. He lost his home in a fire, his livelihood in a drought, and his health in a winter far colder than it should have been. But every night, before he closed his eyes, he whispered a simple prayer, not begging, not complaining, but acknowledging the space between where he was and where he wished to be. And slowly, in a way no logic could explain, doors opened, opportunities appeared, healing arrived. People called it luck, but the rabbi called it alignment. He taught that those who sleep in honesty rise in clarity, and those who sleep in self-deception wake in confusion. Most people don't see this contrast. They say it's fine, everything is fine, thinking they are being positive when in truth they are smothering their own desire to expand. They confuse numbness with peace. They confuse resignation with acceptance. And in doing so, they send the wrong instructions into the spiritual realm. Because there is a world of difference between grateful and stagnant, between content and closed, between trusting and asleep to your own potential. The rabbis warned of this not to instill fear, but to awaken responsibility. They knew that prosperity, real prosperity, is not merely material. It is energetic. It responds not to who you pretend to be, but to the alignment between your words and your truth. And here is where the mystery deepens. There are 3 mistakes nearly everyone makes before sleeping, mistakes that silently block abundance without them ever noticing. And the second of these mistakes is far more dangerous than the first, dangerous because it masquerades as spiritual maturity, when in truth it is spiritual paralysis. But before revealing it, we need to look at the first and most common error, the one almost everyone falls into without realizing it. The first mistake is deceptively simple, almost innocent, and yet it quietly suffocates the flow of prosperity for countless people. Going to bed saying everything is fine when your soul knows it is not. That small, familiar sentence, spoken out of habit, politeness, or exhaustion, becomes a seal over your inner world. It tells the universe you have no space, no hunger, no readiness for expansion. And when expansion knocks and finds the door closed, it simply turns away. I used to do this myself. I would end my day with a tired sigh, collapsing into bed and muttering something like, "It's all okay, tomorrow will be better." But inside, I was unsettled. I was frustrated. I was incomplete. Yet I tried to soothe myself with a lie so soft I almost believed it. What I didn't realize was that this lie was blocking my blessings more effectively than any fear or failure could. In spiritual psychology, this is called false closure, the act of pretending a cycle is complete when your heart is still asking for movement. The subconscious takes your words literally. When you declare that everything is fine, you create an energetic full stop. You tell your inner world no more is needed. And prosperity, which thrives on openness and space, finds nowhere to settle. My grandfather once told me the story of a neighbor who made this mistake every night without fail. He was a hard-working man, humble and disciplined, but stuck in the same financial struggle year after year. One evening, when his business was collapsing, he shrugged and said, "It's fine, I don't need more. I've survived before, I'll survive again." He wasn't being wise, he was giving up while pretending to be strong. And 3 nights later, everything fell apart. A contract dissolved, a partner withdrew, and he lost what little security he had left. To anyone watching, it seemed like bad luck condensed into a short burst. But the old rabbis would say his downfall began the moment he closed his spirit with words that denied his own truth. He told the universe he was full when he was actually empty. And the universe responded, as it always does, with precision. This is the danger of the first mistake. It convinces you to settle. It numbs you just enough to stop fighting, just enough to silence the whisper that says you're meant for more. You go to sleep not as an expanding soul, but as someone who has surrendered to stagnation. And yet, realizing this offers a quiet kind of liberation. Because if the first mistake is a seed that blocks prosperity, then recognizing it is the moment the soil cracks open. Awareness becomes the beginning of change. But the ancient rabbis didn't stop there. They warned of a second mistake, subtler, smoother, and far more dangerous. A mistake that doesn't sound like resignation, but feels like victory, even while it drains your future in silence. The Talmud teaches something both poetic and unsettling. Be cautious when speaking of fullness, for the one who declares himself complete cannot receive more. At first, I didn't understand it. Why would claiming satisfaction be a danger? Isn't gratitude a virtue? But the rabbis were not warning against gratitude. They were warning against a false sense of finality, a subtle inner declaration that there is nothing left to grow, nothing left to reach, nothing left to open. When I finally grasped this, it felt as though an invisible veil had been lifted. I understood why the words, "it's fine," were so damaging. They weren't neutral. They were energetic doorstoppers. They blocked the flow of blessing not because they were negative, but because they created the illusion of completion where there was still longing, still hunger, still possibility. Jewish spiritual psychology explains it beautifully. Your words at night create the architecture of your emotional field for the next day. They determine the openness of your mind, the flexibility of your heart, the alertness of your intuition. When you whisper a phrase of false sufficiency before sleep, your subconscious interprets it as a signal to shut down the channels of expansion. It prepares you for maintenance, not growth. Think of it like a cup filled to the brim. No matter how pure or abundant the water being poured, nothing more can enter. It spills over the sides, wasted. The problem is not the water, it's the lack of space. And our nighttime words determine whether we fall asleep as a full cup or as one that has room to receive. I remember an evening years ago when I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking I had outgrown this old pattern. I had learned so much, healed so much, achieved so much. Surely I wasn't the type to shut my own doors anymore. But then I heard myself whisper, out of sheer fatigue, "I guess this is enough for now." It was such a small sentence, so quiet, almost tender. And yet I felt the energy in my chest collapse in on itself. I had unknowingly declared a limit. In that moment, I understood why the rabbis insisted on vigilance. They knew the soul is impressionable at night, easily shaped, easily redirected. They knew we must speak the truth, not harshly, not with despair, but with honesty that keeps the heart open. So let me ask you something quietly, just between us. Where in your life have you been saying it's fine when what you really feel is, I want more? Where have you disguised longing as acceptance? Where have you closed the door without meaning to? These questions matter because the path to prosperity begins with the courage to open space within yourself again. And now, with that space gently widening, we can finally step toward the second great mistake, the one that hides beneath victories, disguising itself as rest while silently draining the future that could be yours. The second mistake is far more seductive than the first because it doesn't feel like a mistake at all. It feels like relief. It feels like success. It feels like you finally reached safe ground. The ancient rabbis warned that this error sneaks in not when you're broken, but when you're rising. It arrives in moments when life starts smoothing out, when your steps feel lighter, when opportunities begin to unfold. And in that softness, many people make the same quiet declaration. I've made it. I can relax now. But this is where the danger lies. Relaxation is not the problem. There is holiness and rest. The problem is spiritual lowering of the guard, the belief that the journey has ended when it has merely shifted direction. In the language of the sages, this is the era of premature completion. The soul is still expanding, still reaching, still learning, yet the mind tells it to stop moving. My grandfather used to laugh and say, "A crocodile that sleeps becomes a handbag." It was his odd, humorous way of reminding me that even powerful beings lose everything when they drift into complacency. He didn't mean we should live in fear. He meant we should live awake. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. When you mentally declare you've arrived, the brain reduces alertness, creativity, and ambition. It interprets the signal as mission complete and begins conserving energy instead of generating momentum. This inner shift is subtle, but it affects everything. Your decisions, your intuition, your ability to notice opportunities that once felt obvious. I saw this happen to a friend who opened a small business years ago. After months of struggle, he suddenly had a wave of clients, steady income, and a glimpse of the life he wanted. And that's when he told himself, I won. I can slow down now. Not rest, slow down. Not breathe, quit pushing. Within a few months, the flow that had been building evaporated. He thought it was external misfortune, but the truth was simpler and harder. He had stepped away from movement, and prosperity followed his lead. Because life rewards movement, not stagnation. The ancient rabbis understood this deeply. They taught that the soul is made of motion, that spirituality is a path of constant unfolding. The moment you declare yourself finished, you step out of the river of growth and into the stillness of comfort masquerading as peace. And what makes this second mistake so dangerous is that it doesn't feel like giving up. It feels like earning a break. It feels like standing on a mountaintop until you realize your eyes have stopped searching for the next horizon. Yet awareness of this reveals an opening. When you notice the subtle moment you begin to coast, you regain the power to choose momentum again, to step back into the stream of expansion that prosperity follows. But there is a third mistake, one more insidious than the others. A mistake built on a lie so familiar that most people repeat it without questioning it. Yet, it quietly sabotages every possibility of growth. The third mistake is the most dangerous of all, not because it is loud or dramatic, but because it hides beneath a comforting illusion. It is a lie whispered so softly, so repeatedly, that most people mistake it for wisdom. The ancient rabbis spoke of this error with particular urgency, warning that it is the one that steals the future from those who could have soared. And the lie is this: everything is supposed to stay the same. It sounds harmless, it sounds grounded, but beneath its calm surface lives a quiet tragedy. Because nothing in the universe stays the same. The stars move, the oceans shift, trees rise, fall, and rise again. The soul expands, contracts, and expands once more. Every living thing is in constant motion. So when a person convinces themselves that their life should remain unchanged, they lock themselves inside a cycle that was never meant to hold them. The third mistake is believing you've reached the final version of yourself. When people say things are good enough, or I don't need more, or I'll just stay here, they aren't practicing acceptance, they're practicing limitation. They are declaring an end to a journey that was designed to unfold across a lifetime. And the subconscious, ever obedient, takes these words as sacred instruction. It stops searching, it stops creating, it stops attracting, it stops reaching for the life you were meant to grow into. A study conducted in Israel a few years ago explored the impact of fixed versus growth-oriented nighttime reflection. Participants who ended their day with phrases that implied completion, like "this is enough" or "nothing needs to change," experienced a noticeable drop in motivation, creativity, and even income over the following weeks. The researchers recorded an average 12% decrease in earnings among those who repeated these phrases nightly. Meanwhile, participants who ended their day acknowledging gratitude and space for improvement showed an increase in daily progress and opportunity. Ancient wisdom once again confirmed by modern understanding. This is why the third mistake is so devastating. It doesn't look negative. It looks peaceful. It looks responsible. It looks mature. But spiritually, it is the death of movement. And prosperity, true prosperity, can only find those who remain open to motion. When you fall asleep believing that nothing more is possible, life does not argue with you. It simply agrees. But here is the beauty hidden inside this revelation. Once you recognize that the lie of stagnation has been shaping your nights, you gain the power to replace it with a truth that can reshape your mornings. You gain the ability to whisper something different into the darkness, words that carry possibility, humility, gratitude, and readiness. Because the moment you choose to change your final sentence of the day, even by a few syllables, the entire path before you begins to shift. And this shift leads us to the turning point the rabbis protected for centuries. A small, powerful formula of words that opens the gates of prosperity with a simplicity almost impossible to believe. Now that the 3 mistakes have been uncovered, the path becomes clear, almost illuminated from within. Because the ancient rabbis did not reveal the dangers of nighttime words only to frighten us. They revealed them to prepare us for something far more powerful. They believed that once a person understood the weight of their final sentence before sleep, they became ready to receive the formula that transforms darkness into a cradle of abundance. This formula is simple. It is short. But do not confuse simplicity with weakness. The greatest spiritual technologies are often the most delicate, the most compact, the most easily overlooked. And this one has been whispered for generations, carried through deserts, exiles, wars, and rebirths, preserved because it works. Before sleep, the rabbis instructed their students to say 3 elements woven into a single breath: gratitude, movement, and growth. These are the pillars that keep the soul open, receptive, and aligned. Without them, the mind collapses into stagnation. With them, it expands like a field ready for harvest. So here is the formula, adapted for our language, yet faithful to its spiritual structure. Thank God, I am working and I am growing. These words contain 3 truths. The first truth is gratitude. Thank God. Gratitude is an opening. It softens the heart, dissolves resistance, and aligns the spirit with abundance. It tells the universe you are not asleep to what you already have. You are awake, aware, receptive. Gratitude is not the end of desire, it is the beginning of worthy desire. The second truth is movement. I am working. These words do not mean labor or exhaustion. They mean participation. They mean you are not waiting passively for miracles. You are stepping toward them, even if the steps are small. Movement signals life. It signals readiness. It signals that you are willing to meet blessing halfway. The third truth is growth. I am growing. This phrase cracks open the spiritual soil. It tells your subconscious there is space for more wisdom, more opportunities, more prosperity, more expansion. Growth is the antidote to stagnation. It is the soul's natural state. When you stitch these 3 truths together and speak them before sleep, you are doing more than forming a sentence. You are issuing a spiritual command. You are aligning your inner world with the laws of abundance. You are inviting the unseen forces of the night to work in your favor rather than against you. And this practice becomes even more powerful when you anchor it into your daily rhythm. To strengthen the ritual, set an alarm on your phone each night at 9 o'clock with this phrase as the reminder. Let it call you back to intention. Let it become the doorway you walk through before you surrender to rest. Because once you begin speaking these words consistently, something subtle begins to shift, not outside you, but inside. And that inner shift is what prosperity responds to first. Now, let me show you how this formula has changed real lives. Ordinary people, extraordinary transformations. Proof that these words are not theory, but a living force. I want to share with you a story that has stayed with me for years. A story that taught me more about the power of nighttime words than any book or lecture ever could. Her name was Donna Luzia, a quiet woman who lived in a modest neighborhood on the edge of the city. She wasn't someone the world would call remarkable at first glance. She worked long hours, carried more burdens than she admitted, and spent most nights falling asleep with the heavy sigh of someone who had learned to endure life rather than shape it. For decades, her nightly ritual was the same. She would look around her small home, whisper, "It's fine, I'm fine," and close her eyes. But nothing ever changed. The bills remained heavy, the opportunities scarce, the sense of stagnation almost constant. She didn't complain. She simply believed her life was meant to stay that way. Until the night she heard the teaching that changed everything. Your final words decide the shape of your next dawn. At first, she didn't believe it. How could a sentence, spoken in the quiet hours before sleep, alter the path of an entire life? But she was tired, tired of surviving, tired of pretending, tired of settling. So she decided to try, just for one night. She sat on the edge of her bed, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Thank God, I am working and I am growing." It felt strange. She was not used to declaring movement where she saw none. But there was something honest about those words. They didn't deny her struggles. They acknowledged her desire to rise. That night, for the first time in years, she felt asleep, feeling a small flicker of possibility instead of resignation. Within a week, something subtle shifted. A neighbor mentioned a part-time opportunity that fit her schedule. 2 weeks later, she received unexpected help with a debt that had weighed on her shoulders for months. A month after that, she was offered a full-time position with better pay and a calmer environment. These were not miracles falling from the sky. They were openings she had never noticed before. Her mind had been too closed, her spirit too tired, her nights too filled with the lie of "it's fine." But now, every night she repeated the formula. And every morning, she woke a little more open, a little more alert, a little more attuned to the possibilities around her. What changed was not fate, it was her internal alignment with growth. Her before was marked by scarcity and numbness. Her after became a quiet unfolding of stability, dignity, and prosperity. And here is the truth her story reveals. You don't need to be part of a specific faith to access this energy. You don't need to understand ancient languages or follow complex rituals. The spiritual laws that govern abundance are universal. When you align your words with truth, gratitude, movement, and growth, the universe responds. Not because of religion, but because of resonance. And now that you understand how this has changed real lives, we can step into the deeper philosophy behind it, the ancient Jewish understanding of prosperity that explains why this works so consistently. The deeper you walk into this wisdom, the clearer it becomes that none of this is random. The ancient Jewish teachings about prosperity are not collections of hopeful sayings or poetic ideas. They are spiritual mechanics, laws woven into the fabric of existence. And at the heart of these teachings lies one principle repeated in countless forms, across centuries of commentary and prayer. Words create worlds. In the opening lines of the Torah, creation does not begin with hands or tools or force. It begins with speech. God said, and there was. This is not merely a historical or religious claim, it is a spiritual blueprint. The universe responds to articulation. Reality bends toward declaration. The rabbis believe that every human being, created in the image of the divine, carries a fragment of that creative power. And while we cannot summon galaxies or shape the stars, we can shape the atmosphere of our lives through the words we choose, especially the words spoken in moments of transition, like the hush before sleep. When you say, "Thank God I am working and I am growing," you are not reciting a comforting phrase. You are aligning yourself with the ancient rhythm of creation, gratitude, movement, expansion. These are the currents of prosperity. They are the opposite of stagnation, the opposite of resignation, the opposite of that quiet lie that everything must stay the same. The rabbis used to say, a person becomes what they repeatedly declare. If you declare completion, you become closed. If you declare fear, you become limited. If you declare readiness, you become open. And this openness is not abstract, it translates into perception. You begin noticing opportunities that were always present but previously invisible. You begin attracting conversations, invitations, insights, and decisions that subtly redirect your path. This is why I invite you to practice the formula for 7 days, not as superstition, but as alignment. 7 days because in Jewish tradition, 7 represents completion with the possibility of renewal. It is the cycle of creation itself. And when you commit to speaking these words for 7 nights, you step into rhythm with something ancient, something larger than yourself, something that has guided generations toward clarity and abundance. And here is the part many people miss. Prosperity is not given, It is met. It is approached. It is welcomed. The universe does not force abundance onto a closed heart. It partners with a willing one. You are not waiting for miracles. You are participating in them. So as this path begins to settle inside you, as the teachings start weaving themselves into your nightly ritual, you will notice a shift, a quiet but steady sense that life is no longer happening to you, but with you. That you are not surviving the days, but shaping them. And yet, before we close this journey, there is one more moment of power waiting for you. One final declaration, blessed and ancient, to seal this teaching into your life. As we reach this final chapter, I want you to feel something subtle, almost like a door inside you has been opening, little by little, with every word you've taken in. Because this journey was never about fear or warning, it has always been about awakening. Awakening to the truth that your voice is a creative force, that your nights are sacred ground, and that prosperity is not a distant miracle, but a response to your inner alignment. And now, before we close, I want to bring everything back to the core message that has been weaving itself through each chapter like a golden thread. Do not end your day with small phrases that shrink your soul. End it with words that expand it. For so many years, people have whispered, "I'm fine," or "it is enough," believing those phrases bring peace. But now you know the deeper truth. Those words don't bring peace. They bring pause. They freeze the spirit. They dim the flame. They close the door. And closing the door is the one thing you cannot afford if you desire a life of abundance. So tonight and every night after tonight, let your final sentence be one of movement and growth. Thank God I am working and I am growing. Thank God I am working and I am growing. Speak it with sincerity. Speak it with intention. Speak it like someone who finally understands the weight of their own voice. And now, let me offer you something older than any prosperity teaching. Something spoken for thousands of years over families, over children, over travelers, over generations searching for protection and blessing. A benediction so gentle and yet so powerful that it became a universal symbol of spiritual safety. May the Lord bless you and keep you. These words are a shelter, a covering, a reminder that as you open your heart to growth, you do not walk alone. The path may change, the seasons may shift, but the protection that surrounds you remains steady. Take a breath as you read this. Let it settle into you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and give you peace. Peace not as stagnation, but as clarity. Peace not as denial, but as alignment. Peace that comes from knowing you are expanding with purpose, not drifting without direction. And now, as we complete this journey together, I want to ask you for something symbolic. Not for me, but for the energy we are shaping together. Share this teaching with 3 people who need it. 3 people who may be falling asleep each night with heavy hearts, closed spirits, or small sentences that dim their future. When you share something that elevates another life, you multiply the blessing in your own. So take the wisdom with you. Take the formula with you. Take the blessing with you. And tonight, before your eyes grow heavy and your breathing slows, let your final whisper carry the power of everything you've learned. Thank God I am working and I am growing.